Class 10, this is the explanation video for calorimetry numericals. So let's start with 11A. Okay, so I'll just introduce the concepts once again. It's just a recap and then correspondingly the numericals. Okay, and you can actually, if you go through the concepts, you can actually, it will be easier for you to do the numericals on your own. See the first one, delta T degree Celsius equal to delta T Kelvin. What does it mean? It means that temperature difference in the Celsius scale is equal to the temperature difference in the Kelvin scale. So suppose if it's given to you, say for example, say 15 degree Celsius temperature. We know that in Kelvin scale we have to add 273 to get the temperature in Kelvin scale. So 15 plus 273 gives us temperature in Kelvin scale. But what about the temperature difference? Say delta T degree Celsius, that means in Celsius scale, temperature difference will be, say, suppose the temperature has changed from 15 to say 20. So 20 plus 273 minus 15 plus 273, isn't it? That makes us 20 minus 15 plus 273 minus 273, 0. So that means what, that is 5 degrees Celsius. So 5 degrees Celsius equal to 5K then, when it comes to the temperature difference, mind it. So whatever is the temperature difference in Celsius scale, it will be the same in Kelvin scale because of the formula only. But suppose if I ask you 15 degrees Celsius is how much in Kelvin scale, then plus 273. But 15 degree change in temperature is same in Celsius as well as Kelvin scale. So that's why we say delta T degree Celsius equal to delta T Kelvin. So that's why this numerical, when it was asked, by imparting heat to a body, its temperature rise by 15 degrees Celsius, temperature rise by 15 degrees Celsius. So delta T is 15 degrees Celsius. So that means in Kelvin scale it will be 15K. That's why, you know, when you have the specific heat capacities or heat capacities, the units, when we change the units, we don't change per degree Celsius or per Kelvin, because the temperature rise will be same. I'll just show you once again, okay, in another sum. Next concept is, whenever there is a change in temperature, okay, say there are two bodies and one body is hotter than the other body, so basically heat transfer will take place from hotter body to colder body. So basically, whenever there is a change in temperature, say a body is at 50 degrees Celsius, it absorbs heat. When it absorbs heat energy, for example, then its temperature will rise. Say initially it is at 50 degree, now it absorbs heat and its temperature rises to 80 degrees Celsius. What will be the delta T? Rise in temperature will be 80 minus 50. Final minus initial, when it's rise in temperature. Basically delta T is positive, okay. Now what about when heat energy is released? Say you have a body at 50 degrees Celsius, it releases heat energy and it basically from 50 to it comes to 20 degrees Celsius. So what will be delta T then? Delta T is now the fall in temperature. We won't write 20 minus 50, we will say 50 minus 20. Why? Because we are calculating the fall in temperature. Okay, so that means now it will be initial minus final when it's fall in temperature. Delta T again positive. In this case it's 30 degrees Celsius, or we can say 30 Kelvin. Why? Because it's a temperature change, that's why. Here also fall in temperature is 30 degrees Celsius or 30 K. Okay, and what is the relation which we follow whenever there is a change in temperature? Q equal to MC delta T. M is a mass, C is a specific heat capacity. or we can follow Q equal to C prime delta T, where C prime is the heat capacity, C prime equal to M into C. This we have already discussed in the video lessons, right? This is a relation between heat capacity and specific heat capacity. So suppose if C prime is given, M is given, you have to find Q. We will use this form. Whatever, you can also use this form. Then you will have to find C first by C prime by M. Don't mug up the formulas. Just learn the relations and use them accordingly, whichever will suit the convenience. Okay. See this one. A piece of iron of mass is given. Heat capacity is given. That means C prime is given. And you have to find the heat energy, that is Q you have to find, and also the specific heat capacity. How do we find specific heat capacity? C is equal to C prime by M. So we'll get the specific heat capacity. And how do we find Q? You can find Q either after finding C, you can find Q by MC delta T, or from here you can find by using the form C prime into delta T. Same. You will get the same result. Notice the units. Specific heat capacity has the unit, say joule per kg per Kelvin, or say joule per gram per Kelvin. That means it actually contains joule per gram per Kelvin. That means what? Or joule per kg per degree C, or whatever it is. Basically it will contain the Q, just C is equal to, see this relation, C equal to Q by M delta T. That's why contain the unit of Q, M and T. C prime contains the unit of Q and T, because you can get C prime from here, Q by delta T. Okay. See again here, in this sum, it was given 1300 joule of heat energy supplied to raise the temperature of 0.5 kg lead from 20 to 40. See, temperature rise. Delta T is here, temperature rise. Rise in temperature means final minus initial. 40 minus 20, 20 degrees Celsius. We can write it as 20 Kelvin since it's a temperature difference. Now, we will have to find the specific heat capacity. We will use this form obviously. Q equal to MC delta T, because that is the only relation from where we can get C, because C prime is not given to us. So Q is given, M is given, delta T is given. So just simply we have to find C. Now if I ask you, can I find C prime from here? That means specific heat capacity we have found. Can I find heat capacity? We can. If C is given, then C into mass will give us the heat capacity. So 130 into mass will give us C prime. If the question was that, you can find that also. Just use the information whatever it's provided to you. See, in this case, electric heater of power 600 watt raises the temperature of 4 kg of liquid, mass given, from 10 to 15, temperature rise. So delta T is 15 minus 10 in 100 seconds. Calculate the heat capacity and the specific heat capacity. How will I find heat capacity? Simply Q by delta T. Now Q, that means I need Q. So Q we can find by P equal to Q by T. We have learned this. Heat energy consumed by time taken. Power is always the energy by time or work by time. So we have found the Q from here. Now I have first found C, specific heat capacity. That's up to you how you will do. What I have done, I have found, use the relation, and I have found C by Q by M delta T. All the things were provided. I have just substituted the values and got the answer, and then C into M gives us C prime. That's why. Also, you could have done simply by C is equal to Q by M delta T and C prime equal to Q by delta T. Simply you can find like this also. Okay. Next is principle of calorimetry. Say you have two bodies A and B. A is having mass M1 specific heat capacity C1, temperature T1, and B, mass M2, specific heat capacity C2, temperature T2. Now say A is a hotter body. A is hotter than B. That means temperature of A is greater than B. Okay, so T1 greater than T2. Now, what will be, first of all, I hope you know that heat will be transferred from A to B. That means heat transfer will take place as long as they reach a final temperature. It is the final temperature till which, that means after attaining this, the two will be balanced, isn't it? So A will lose heat as long as it attains this temperature, and B will gain heat as long as it attains this temperature. So then just see what is delta T for A. Delta T means the temperature change. In this case, A is losing heat. Heat energy is released. That means fall in temperature. T1 minus T, therefore T1 is the initial minus final, it's fall in temperature. What about delta T for B? It's gaining heat. Heat is absorbed, so rise in temperature. So final minus initial, T minus T2. That is why, and we say, according to the principle of calorimetry, if no heat is lost to the surroundings, then whatever is the heat lost by the hotter body will be equal to the heat gained by the colder body. Okay, so that's why M1C1, T1 minus T, this is delta T for A, M2C2, delta T for B. Now see this sum. A mass of 50 gram of certain metal at 150 degrees Celsius is immersed in 100 gram of water at 11 degrees Celsius. There is a temperature difference between the two, so heat will flow from the hotter body to the colder body. Which one is the hotter body? Obviously the one which is at higher temperature, 150. So heat lost by the hot body is 50 into C, MC delta T. Delta T is the fall in temperature. So that's why initial minus final, 150 minus 20. Final temperature is given to us. And heat gained by the cold body will be M into C into M2 C2 into its heat gained by the colder body. That means rise in temperature, delta T, therefore final minus initial. Now notice that, okay, let's just show you the whole sum. I'll just show you, then I'll tell you one thing. According to the principle of calorimetry, obviously heat lost by the hot body equal to heat gained by the cold body, and I have found C. See, I have found joule per gram per Kelvin. Why? Because initially specific heat capacity of water was given as 4.2 joule per gram per Kelvin. So I decided that I won't convert it to joule per kg per Kelvin, but you can convert. That is also correct. So if you wanted to convert this to joule per kg per Kelvin, then we will get the answer of C as 0. That means whatever will be the answer, that will be coming in joule per kg per Kelvin. Let's see how. You can convert from here also. How do we convert that? We know 1 kg equal to 10 to the power 3 gram. So 1 kg inverse will be then 10 to the power minus 3 gram inverse index, isn't it? So that means if I have to convert kg inverse to gram inverse into 10 to the minus 3. What about gram inverse to kg inverse if I have to convert? Then simply just see 1, that means 1 kg inverse is 1 by 10 to the power 3 gram inverse. So 1 gram inverse means 10 to the power 3 kg inverse. So if I have to convert gram inverse to kg inverse, I will multiply 10 to the power 3 then. So suppose 0.582 joule per gram per Kelvin. If I have to convert to joule per kg per Kelvin, then how will I do? Gram inverse to kg inverse. So 10 to the power 3 multiply. So 0.582 into 10 to the power 3, 582 joule per kg per Kelvin. Similarly, if suppose this was the answer, say you have initially converted, say you wanted to convert here only. No, you say that you want to keep the answers in joule per kg per Kelvin. So you have decided I will convert this in this step. That means before starting the sum, I want to convert specific heat capacity of water. Let's see. 4.2 joule per gram per Kelvin was given. So in order to convert to joule per kg per Kelvin, what would I do? Into 10 to the power 3. Just now we have learned. So 4200 joule per kg per Kelvin. So that means if I have to convert joule per kg per Kelvin to joule per gram per Kelvin, then into 10 to the power minus 3. Just remember the relations. Okay. And why haven't I converted 50 gram into kg or 100 gram into kg? You can convert and do. But you know why I haven't done? Because 50 gram, if you convert to kg, it will be 50 by 1000. Suppose 50 by 1000 and 100 to kg, 50 by 1000. Anyways, it will get cancelled from both sides. So that's why I didn't write that. You can write, you can add an additional step to convert. No problem in that. But since it will automatically get cancelled, that's why. But see, be careful about the unit. Okay, because here you are using 4.2 joule per gram per Kelvin. It's not getting cancelled anywhere because we are calculating C. So if you are keeping joule per gram per Kelvin, then C you will get in joule per gram per Kelvin. If you have converted initially 4.2 into 4200 joule per kg per Kelvin, then you would have got the answer as 582 joule per kg per Kelvin. If I ask you 0.582 joule per gram per Kelvin converted to joule per gram per degree C, then what would have been the answer? Same, 0.582. Why? Because this is the rise in temperature, that means change in temperature per Kelvin. What is specific heat capacity? Amount of heat energy required to change the temperature of 1 gram of a substance, unit mass of a substance, by unit amount. So that means it's the temperature change, the unit of temperature change, Q by M into delta T. C is Q by M into delta T. So it's a unit, basically this per Kelvin is a unit of the temperature change. That is why it will remain same per Kelvin or per degree Celsius. Same, no change. Okay. For the same reason here, see 200 gram hot water at 80 degrees Celsius is added to 300 gram of cold water at 10 degrees Celsius. Now calculate the final temperature of the mixture. So first of all, heat exchange will take place from body at high temperature 80 to body at lower temperature 10. This will lose heat. So heat lost by the hot body, see M into M1 C1 to delta T. I have taken T as a final temperature, T degree Celsius. Okay. That is why I have converted here 4200 joule per kg per Kelvin means 4200 joule per kg per degree C. So I can straight away use this form. So 80 minus T. Why? Because it's actually losing the heat. So heat loss, that means it will be released. So fall in temperature. Initial minus final. Heat gained by the cold body, M2, C2. Same because both are water, that's why. Temperature rise, so final minus initial. Okay, and T is the final temperature, and then I have just used the form. See, again I have not converted 200 gram into kg or 300 gram into kg. You can do that, no problem. See, again same, 200 by 1000 if you have converted to kg, 300 by 1000. So ultimately it will get cancelled, that's why. So T is 38 degrees Celsius, not Kelvin. Okay. And this sum also, temperature of 600 gram cold water rises by 15 degrees Celsius. Rises means the temperature change or the temperature rise is 15 degrees Celsius. So delta T is 15 degree. So heat gained by the cold water 600 into C into 15, and say specific heat capacity we have to find that okay, we have to find the initial temperature. So I have substituted specific heat capacity as C. You can substitute as 4200 also. Why I have used C? Because it will get cancelled because both are water. So M1 C1 delta T equal to M2 C2 delta T. C1 C2 equal because both water. So anyways it will get cancelled. It does not matter what even if you take C. And then I have done the calculation simply. Heat gained by the cold water, see 600 into C into 15. And heat lost by the hot water, obviously 300 into C into 50 minus T. This 15 is already given, the change in temperature, but this is not given. Because why have I used 15 and not, I have used, that is initial temperature we have to find. So heat gained by the cold water, I have used, in place of delta T, I have used 15 because it's given to us, the temperature rise is 15. And heat lost by cold water, since I have to find T, the initial temperature, okay. So that's why I am using T, which is the final temperature of the mixture. After I find the final temperature of the mixture, I have got 20 degrees Celsius. See, simply what can I do? Final temperature is 20 and temperature change of cold water is 15. So initial temperature of cold water will be 20 minus 5 degrees Celsius. So if you find T, that is a final temperature, you can find the initial temperature then from there.